We begin our look at Port Dalhousie and the developments there by visiting with one of the two people that has, I think, probably one of the toughest jobs on City Council. Carlos Garcia, Port Dalhousie Councillor, joins us. Welcome to the program, Carlos.
Thank you, Mike.
I do believe, when you look at the wards in St. Catharines, that your ward has had the largest number of controversies over the last few years. So let's talk primarily today about development. When we go back, I don't know, was it 15, 16 years ago when the Port Place development was first being announced?
I was very involved as a community volunteer to get heritage designation for Port Dalhousie. We got it finally, the OMB had to approve it, and that was December 2003. February 2004, the first of the tower developers came to meet with us and said, oh, we've bought all these properties and we want to put some low-rise buildings there that are really going to fit in. We were really excited. And then a month later, they came back with a 33-story tower. So that's where the controversy really started. So they ended up changing it and blah, blah, blah. It went to the OMB. It was a marathon hearing. It was 73 days.
And the city usually doesn't win those kinds of fights.
No. And the city, of course, was on our side. And the developer, they can hire all the lawyers. And I learned at that time that you can pay a, quote, expert to say almost anything. And we ended up losing that OMB hearing. They got what they called a 17-story tower approved, even though Bruce and I always say it's like a 20-story from the park because of the grade.
That's right.
The drop in grade between Lock Street and the parking lot there.
When did the buildings that were on that footprint come down?
The only building that came down was the Port Mansion,
right.
Which it was so sad because the Port Mansion was originally two 1860s hotels that had been put together. And what the developer argued at the OMB was that, well, Donatelli, who was the owner at the time, who does a lot of good restoration work, had really sort of bastardized the design and had put windows and railings and so on that didn't really belong there. And therefore, there was really no heritage left.
Lost its historical significance because
exactly.
of that.
So the OMB agreed that the Port Mansion could be demolished, which was so sad.
Once that came down, though, it was pretty much evident that something had to go up in its place eventually. But you were still fighting against the size of that building. For
sure. And what the original proposal wanted to take over part of Hogan's Alley. And then, of course, the property included from the original post office, which is where the Spice of Life restaurant was, over to Main Street, down to the park, and then they wanted to go across Hogan's Alley because they owned the Port Mansion site as well.
Right.
And have some kind of a bridge or crossover or something, and have, I think, the original theater which they proposed, which was a bit of a sham to try to sell the thing and say they were revitalizing.
Is it interesting to you that when we look at that first proposal, which really shook up the residents of Port Dalhousie, that one still has not begun, but we have 3 that are in progress?
The reason the big one hasn't been done is that they have changed hands several times. The original, quote, developers were not really developers. They were into it just to make money. And, you know, everybody in our society has a right to make money. We don't begrudge in that. Tom
Rankin now owns that property. Are you optimistic that he will listen to the concerns and that he will build something that will fit in?
Well, I certainly am optimistic. I know Tom fairly well, and you know, he's a highly respected member of the community. At least we have somebody local, because none of the previous owners were really local. I mean, some of them were from here in the Falls, but they were not like local St. Catharines or Port Dalhousie people. And Tom has a great track record. You may have heard we approved a new secondary plan. It's been under appeal. But what's allowed there by the secondary plan is 3 stories at the Lock Street front, which
right.
is what the Lakeside Hotel or Austin House is. I assume you call it the Lakeside like I do.
Yes.
And then it can go back up.
So it'd be tiered up.
Yeah, it can go up to 6, which is really down at the park 8 or 9 again. So that could be quite sizable. I'm certainly hoping that Tom can work within that. We haven't seen a proposal yet from him, but I'm sure he will try to do the right thing. I know he cares about the community and he cares about heritage.
Are you worried about congestion in Port Dalhousie, parking problems, access to the beach?
There have been as many as 220 units proposed there. And at least at one time we did an addition, and we figured between that, the beaches, what's proposed on Lincoln Fabrics, and the one that he's building where the Legion site was. Yes. I mean, we were adding like probably 60% increase to the population of all Port Dalhousie in terms of dwelling unit numbers. Yeah.
Carlos, while you're here with us, can we get an update on what's happening with the reconstruction of the piers?
I sit on the Pier Task Force representing Council with DFO, who are the federal department who are in charge of this reconstruction of the piers. They're almost done with all the pouring of the decking on the West Pier, which is the principal one that people walk on. I'm hoping that it will be open to walkers in the next month or so. I will know more on Friday. And they're doing work on the East Pier as well, where the marina is, and the yacht club. And the target is still the original target, which is to have the whole project completed spring 2021.
Carlos, thanks for that update, and we look forward to seeing what takes place with the development in Port Dalhousie Ward. Thanks for your time.